Hi there, folks. It's your friend Phil, Project Management Trainer and Coach. Welcome to our PMP Exam Prep Reloaded. Thank you for joining me today. Today is week 7, and I'd like to say happy Memorial Day weekend. We've got this really long weekend coming up, and lots of you have told me you are getting ready to pull the trigger on that bad boy called the PMP exam come Tuesday. Really looking forward to you doing great. Let's jump into executing. You know that this is 31% of the actual exam. 3-1. You got that right. 31%. And you know that this exam is a really wild, ridiculously wild exam. That if you don't prepare well for it, if you don't take in that arsenal, you don't load up as you're going in there to fight that beast, you'll be shocked at what that beast could do. You see, so you want to go in prepared, covering, executing all over. There are only 8 processes in executing, but they are extremely lethal when presented in a situational fashion that people are not used to. So I'm going to show you a few of these data flows to help wrap your mind around executing, and I'm going to show you a few questions here and there. So let's go. So executing processes start off with the develop project management plan process that fuels all of these subsidiary plans. So plan quality management is the first process that we're going to address. In this process, we have the quality management plan as an output going into the only process within quality that's in executing, perform quality assurance. But also remember that we have the process improvement plan. So we don't just have the quality management plan, we also have the process improvement plan as an input. That's very important to remember. Why am I stressing that? Well, I'm stressing it because process analysis is carried out in perform quality assurance. So when you see that flow of a plan from the planning process group into the executing process group process within that knowledge area, ask yourself, okay, why is this plan? Here's another example. Plan goes into plan resource management, human resource management plan, and manage project team. See, so you need to ask yourself, okay, why is my human resource plan going into these? What exactly is it doing? The same thing for communications. The same thing for direct and manage project work, which is in executing within integration. Same thing for plan procurement management. We've got the procurement management plan coming out of plan procurement management, going to conduct procurements. We've got the stakeholder management plan coming out of plan stakeholder management and going in to manage stakeholder engagement. So I'm trying to get you to see the pattern that these executing processes in the 5th edition all use their individual subsidiary plans from that knowledge area as an input. You see, perform quality assurance uses the quality management plan. Acquire, develop, and manage project team use the human resource management plan. You don't see mention of the big project management plan as inputs to those executing processes. Instead, you see it as an input to where you get the subsidiary plans. Now, I hope that helps. You know, direct and managed project work is a little bit different in that we have the project management plan going directly into it. So it's the only executing process where we have the explicit mention of the project management plan as an input. Okay? So when we look at this chart, I would like you to ask yourself, do I know all the inputs that are going in there? Do I know all the tools and techniques that I used, or the most common ones? So let's take a look. Direct and managed project work. What comes to mind? It's unique, isn't it? Do you know why it's unique? This is where work performance data comes from. Take a close look at this suspect here, because all throughout your exam, you're going to have the recurring theme of why are we working on the project? To get a deliverable. What could happen as we're working on the deliverable? We could get changes. What would you do if someone asked you to make a change to scope? Oh, I would do this. What would you do if someone asked you to make a change to the cost baseline? You see, So you have to be in that frame of mind connecting all these points. And direct and manage project work is so important because when it comes to change requests, it's in direct and manage project work that change requests are implemented. You see, there is a fine line between what happens when a change request is approved and what happens in direct and managed project work. Change request gets approved in perform integrated change control. It goes straight into direct and managed project work to be implemented. So that is a very important process in executing. Moreover, this process is one in which we coordinate all of these other processes. It's one in which we integrate all of these other processes from a more high level, supervisory level, integrative level. Okay? So as a result, direct and managed project work is where we also identify work performance data as an output. Work performance data does not come from all of these individually. It actually comes from the higher level integrative process for executing events on the project called direct and managed project work. So for that reason, that is a very important process. It is so important. Next, I'd like to introduce you to the executing table of insight and understanding. I would highly recommend this to you, especially for executing, monitoring and controlling, and planning. You need to keep these processes in focus, okay? Now, for each process, I'm not focusing on those blanket statements or those recurring themes like EEFs and OPAs and so on. No, I'm not focusing on that. I'm focusing on key inputs, key tools and techniques, and key outputs. And you definitely need to know these for your exam. So let's take a look at the first one here, direct and manage project work. Approved change requests are huge. I've talked about that. The project management information system, which is also an enterprise environmental factor, is important. Deliverables and WPD, I've talked about those for direct and manage. Now, for perform quality assurance, it's a no-brainer that since quality assurance is all about checking the process, well, of course, we should have the process improvement plan, and we should also have the quality management plan, which tells us how this process of quality assurance is going to be carried out. Now, the process improvement plan is more specific to process improvement. And for that reason, we have quality control measurements, which could come from control quality. People say, Phil, wait a minute, but this comes from monitoring and controlling. Yes, there's a feedback loop. Monitoring and controlling in the quality aspect happens in control quality. If you get quality control measurements from there that are not satisfactory and need to be analyzed or investigated, the process where you analyze why this went wrong or why these measurements are off is perform quality assurance. This is where you carry out a process analysis, as you can see on the screen. You carry out your process analysis. You want to know why the process is broken. Look at your quality control measurements, and that will help you put the big puzzle together further. Use other quality management and control tools to dig deep and find out why your process is off. And this is what you do in perform quality assurance. It's process driven, all right, versus quality control, which is product driven. Quality assurance, check in the process. Quality control, check in the product, okay? And the output that we could get from here is change requests. Now let's go on to the terrible three, or perhaps for you, it will be the terrific three. Acquire, develop, manage, ADM. Now in HR, we have three processes in executing that account for a significant part of the exam weighting. A lot of people say HR is easy to study. Well, it might look easy to study, but it's not easy to tackle when you face those questions on the exam if you haven't done enough homework. So, what do I mean by doing enough homework? I mean focusing on those unique elements of each process in acquire, develop, and manage. So, if you take a look here, pre-assignment, negotiation, acquisition, virtual teams, and multi-criteria decision analysis. You have to go down to the sub-levels in the PMBOK guide, read these up, and know exactly what they mean below the surface. Yes, pre-assignment, assigning people in advance. Yes, negotiation, negotiating for resources with functional heads or external. Acquisition, acquiring resources from within the firm or outside of the firm. Virtual teams, yeah, people working in a geographically dispersed way or a loose matrix, right? Multi-criteria decision analysis. This is analyzing various criteria for team members and selected team members based on that criteria. Yeah, you know all those at a high level, but I'm encouraging you to go to the sub-level so that when you see those questions on the exam, folks, you are not going to be deceived because it's very easy to be tricked on the exam if you do not know the sub-level content. The major output, project staff assignments, takes us to develop project team. We already know the human resource management plan is an input. Interpersonal skills, Appendix X3 in the PMBOK guide. If you haven't read that, I feel a bit sorry. You might want to do it like now because on the exam, these interpersonal skills, having them at your fingertips could help you. Knowing what they are and being comfortable with the language. There's a lot of verbose language in the PMBOK guide, and being aware of that language, familiar with it, and looking at it as, yeah, no big deal, I understand it, it will help you on the exam. But if you come across that language for the first time on the exam, right, from Appendix X3, you're going to be shocked or you're going to be floored. So know it, know it, know it, know it. Training, team building, ground rules, co-location, recognition and rewards, personnel assessment tools need no introduction, I'm sure. Hopefully they don't. Co-location, you could use the word tight matrix to describe a team that is in close proximity. Project staff assignments are an output, resource calendars, and team performance assessments. But it's also important to know that these are also used within managed project team. You see your project staff assignments, the team performance assessments, very important. Also, the issue log is an input to managed project team. Do you know what an issue log is? Do you understand that it's meant to keep people straight when they get into disagreements? You see, if you haven't read the sub-level, folks, it's going to be hard. Some people think the issue log is a log of risks that have become issues. No, no, 1,000 times no. I know in the world of ITIL it's different, but not in the world of the PMI. You see, if you go to the glossary and read up about the issue log, it will become clearer to you what it is and why it's an input here. Also, work performance reports, okay? So I'm not going to go into broken record mode. I'm just going to say, folks, this table is one I would like you to prepare. Read the tools, techniques, inputs, and outputs that I'm showing here. These are unique as far as I'm concerned, and I would highly advise you to go to the sub-level before you exam, okay? Inputs and outputs to know code from perform quality assurance, of course, quality management plan, process improvement plan, quality metrics, quality control measurements. I showed you 3 of these. Know what quality metrics are. There's a difference between a metric and a measurement. How about the tools and techniques? Quality management and control tools, quality audits, and process analysis. These are important. Move into human resource management, the human resource management plan and project staff assignments. I talked about the issue log, and you know what team performance assessments are. These need to be carried out after you have sent the team for training, right? After you have analyzed how well they have done, right? You also want to begin to think and look for areas of improvement, but you first need those team performance assessments. So as you develop the project team, right, you're going to end up testing them at the end of it all. You're going to get those assessments, and when you manage the team, you're going to be able to assess where they need to improve. Phil has anger management issues. he's a team member on your team. You send him for training, and after the training, you see no improvement. What do? Well, in managed project team, you analyze and you say, Phil, I think you need to go back. You need to go for some more advanced training. You see, I say that in jest, but team performance assessments are an input to managing the project team. I'm going to back up a few slides and show you this just to remind you that a lot of this stuff is input, output becomes an input again, and stuff like that. So take a close look in this image here. You can see team performance assessments right over here on the right hand side of the screen. Now you also see team performance assessments as an input. But what people make a mistake with is thinking that project performance appraisals are team performance assessments, and they're not. You use your team performance assessments as part of your management approach, part of what you need to manage the team and have these project performance appraisals, okay? And also giving people feedback of what you think they need to do. A very important output from here is enterprise environmental factors updates. You also want to be aware that you have these in developed project team as well. You see, this is all detail that you wouldn't catch if you didn't read the PMBOK guide in the level of detail you need to, okay? So there's so many more slides I could show, but I'm going to fast forward here really quick. I'm going to skip a lot of these tools and techniques to know code because I've shown you that table of insight and understanding, and I hope that you take a look at it. So there's so many of these things that you have to know code. Oh, so many tools and techniques and inputs and outputs. But let's get to a few questions. This is where I'm headed. I want to ask you a few questions about executing. So here's a question. You're a project manager on a project and received a directive from the CCB to modify policies, a project management plan, procedures, costs, budgets, and revised schedules. You may require implementation of preventive or corrective actions. The best thing to do is it A, B, C, or D? You might want to pause the recording, think about it, and select an answer. Okay, well, I hope you have chosen your answer. I'm going to show you what the answer is in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The answer is proceed to direct the project work. Now, if you take a look at analyze these changes first, the first option, well, it's already come from the CCB, so why do you need to analyze these changes? It says perform all corrective action first. Well, you can't categorically say that. You don't know which one you should do first, and you can't categorically say that because it's still hazy in the question. How do I know that I shouldn't do preventive action first? It's a bit subjective. And D says implement the triple constraint affected change. Doesn't really make much sense. It doesn't really tell me enough. And how do I know it's triple constraint affected? It's kind of loose. But if I look at C, the option to proceed to direct the project work alludes to the direct and managed project work process. So this is the rationale. The question scenario describes approved change requests from the CCB. This should be executed, be they preventive or corrective actions. The best thing to do is proceed to direct the project work. This describes the direct and managed project work process. On the PMP exam, you can expect to find process names masked heavily in some instances. Okay, so if you are on the social media forums such as LinkedIn, you tune into the PMI's page there, you hear what people talk about regarding the exam. Honestly, the wisest thing to do is read the PMBOK guide and get ready to identify some of these processes that are masked heavily. Let's take a look at one more question here. You're a project manager on a large project. It seems that the project work is very complicated, so you spend time analyzing work and the SIPOC to identify needed improvements. This analysis also examines non-value added activities identified during process operation. What is the best thing to do next? Again, you might want to pause it, choose your option, and I'll show you the answer shortly. Okay, I'm going to show you the answer in 5, 4, Three, two, one. The best thing to do is deliverable inspection. So if you read in between the lines, folks, here's the rationale. The best option is to perform a deliverable inspection in control quality. Carry out a make or buy analysis. This does not fit in the context of the question. Gather all quality requirements. This has likely already been done since you are identifying improvements. Run a process analysis. Well, this describes what you're currently doing. This is a direct cutout of PMBOK lingo for process analysis. And SIPOC means suppliers, inputs, process, outputs, customers. It's a visual tool for documenting a business process from beginning to end. So the best option is deliverable inspection, because after you're done with quality assurance, you move to quality control. That's the most logical answer. So if you're scratching your head about that one, I would highly advise you to come on board our course, www.pmsucceed.com. Go for our 1 month, 3 months, or 6-month course. And by the time you're done, you'll feel more comfortable with some of these esoteric, long-winded questions. I hope that helped you, and I wish you all the best on the exam. Remember, we have PMP Exam Prep Camp Reloaded. We have this going on for the next number of weeks. So if you want to be part of this every Friday deep dive into some of the affairs of the PMBOK guide and listen to experts who've been there, done that. Like tomorrow we have Don, who's going to be presenting some information to us about how to prepare for the exam. If you want to be part of this, folks, join the course and you'll get invited to these sessions. But this is a tip of the iceberg. We still have another 30 minutes to go, so I'm going to say goodbye to all of those our viewers who are not part of our students. Those of you who are part of our students, you are going to continue the journey with Don tomorrow and me, of course, and we'll take it from there. Thank you for your audience and speak to you again soon.